Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Radio Northampton. You know, we've had a great series of guests over the years, and today we're going to talk with a gentleman who wrote a 4-pound book. The guest is Bob Hyldburg. Bob is what I'm going to call the historian emeritus of the New England Patriots, and I don't think anybody comes close because, as you can see in front of you, this is 4-pound, 5-pound book called Total Patriots, and it's the definitive history without having to go to the Hall of Fame. But of course, it's a nice visit too. Absolutely. Bob, how are you today?
Excellent, John. How are you?
Good to see you. And finally, we got the stars to align. We got you on the air. So
happy to be here.
Thanks. How did you get started with this? It's obviously a passion,
right?
Unbridled passion of the team and the whole goings on and the histrionics of everything that's happened.
Well, I'm a trivia guy, and I wanted to know the uniform number of every Patriots player. So I called Gil Santos. I lived in the same town as Gil Santos, and he said, get a hold of a media guide. So I got a hold of a media guide from 1995, and it had 17 players with an NA next to their name. And NA means not available. So I called the Patriots, and I said, how do I get the uniform number of these guys? He said, we don't care. And we're moving on. We think about on to Cincinnati. We're worried about next week. We don't care about what happened in the 60s and 70s. So I said, all right, that's a challenge to me. I want to find out every uniform number. And it started from there. And I went to the Sports Museum, and I started meeting the reporters, Ronnie Hobson and the guys from the Globe. And they said, here's a guy that used to work for the team. So I got a hold of some of their former chief statisticians, and some of them were retired. And they said, oh, I got all my books in my attic, all my little notes and all the different play-by-plays. So I met a guy that had it from like 73 to 84 or something like that. And he gave me like 20 books. So I went through them all. And in the process, I found there was so many blocked punts and so many kickoff returns for a touchdown. So I said, well, I want to know all those too. So I looked up every onside kick, every blocked punt, every blocked field goal, every lateral, and then I started having some issues going from the 1960s to 1970, and then I met a guy who put together a red book, and he says, there's only 3 of these in the world. I have one, and the other 2 people, one guy was working for the Buffalo Bills, and so he made a copy, gave it to me, and it had all kind of really cool stuff. So when they were the Boston Patriots and then they moved to Foxborough, they were all over the place. They had an office in Comm Ave, and they had an office in Fenway Park, and they lost some records, and they had a fire, and they lost it. So if I didn't track down some of these former employees and former people that actually had their records, this stuff never would have been uncovered.
Yeah, they might not have had it themselves.
Right. Yeah, the Patriots didn't have it.
Yeah,
these guys had it in their attic. Or,
yeah.
I
think I can remember from that era when I was a kid. Actually, I think it was my freshman year at UMass Boston. Going down to the Twin Souvenir Shop.
Yeah,
right. And it was cool because I had my first Boston Patriots T-shirt.
Right.
Wore that proudly on every Friday night because we didn't go to the games. We lived out in Methuen, so we'd sit on the kitchen counter with the radio on, listening to. Pre-Gil, then it was
Bob
Gil
Starr.
and Bob Starr, and so
Katie Bodden,
yeah, exactly.
And Gil was there in the beginning a little bit too.
Yeah.
Fred Cusick was an announcer.
Yeah, wow. So everybody took a swing at it, and it was always good stuff. It was Boston radio.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you just networking and you meet people. I met Fred Cusick, and his daughter gave me some of his records, and then Gil Santos was a huge hit, and the Sports Museum in Boston. So I went through every newspaper article. I started going to the Boston Public Library and looking up all the microfilm. I went to the Boston Globe and went through all this stuff, and this took years and years and years.
Yeah.
For 15 and 20 years just to put it all together and just for fun.
Yeah.
It was just a hobby.
And of course, all of this culminated in most of the book.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about the book.
So one of the things that really got me some notoriety is that we tried to get Gino Cappelletti into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So collecting all these things, I would collect, all the things that Gino did because he led the league in scoring 5 times. He was an MVP. And first game I ever went to, I met him after the game. I went to Fenway Park with my uncle and my dad. And so I was hooked from there, just meeting an MVP and shaking my hand. I'm 9 years old. But meeting some of the players that were in the Hall of Fame and talking to them on the radio. Was on Eddie Edelman's show, and we had a national, kind of promotion to try to get them in, and we just couldn't get them in. But then the Patriots found out about what I was doing, and then they hired me actually to work for their home games. So for 13 years, I worked in the Patriots press room, doing their stats, taking photographs and analyzing them and things like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of turned into a hobby, and a publishing company found out about Gino and me working in the Patriots press room, and they said, "We understand you got a whole bunch of stats. Can you put them together in a book?" And Triumph Books out of Chicago said, "Oh my God!" I sent them 1,200 pages. We got it down to 800, and it turned into Total
book.
Patriots.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. And then you followed up with Reliving Patriots History?
Yeah, so once we get Total Patriots out, and we've sold thousands of books all over the world, the Patriots wanted to put the information I had in Total Patriots in a computer display in the Patriots Hall of Fame. So that took a little bit of changing from the format I had it in. We have 1,319 players that have played for the Patriots, and they wanted to have it in a display that you want to look up Troy Brown, and you want to look up every person that played at Marshall. You want to look up every wide receiver. So I had to put it in an Excel spreadsheet. And I had like 260 different categories of stats and 1,319 players. So changing all that over, it took a couple of years to put that together. It's there now when you can do it. And in the process of updating the records, that's what the second book came out.
Did you have to expand on your home to have a whole office or something? Or
my wife went crazy because, I have stuff that was in Chapter 3 and Chapter 5 and Chapter 7 and different pages of the floor. And, I'm trying to put it all together. She's like, "What are you doing? Don't step on that. That's I got to make sure that hits in 3 different chapters so that I keep track of it." But
it's not like that game that you walk on you tiptoe all over the floor that you lay it out, and I forget the name of the game.
So it was a labor of love, but it was a fun thing. I enjoyed the journey. I met a couple hundred players.
Yeah.
I got a chance to be at every Patriots home game for 13 years and get paid to be there. And then now I'm just telling stories about the interactions that I've had and the lessons that I've learned from these players.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. It really is amazing. And I mean, you're just involved with so many of them. And it's a great alumni group, too, that you run into everybody, starting with Pete Brock and everybody else, our local guy here, Max Lane, and others that are there. In fact, one of the things we were going to talk a little later on is about the Russ Francis and Zolak, and a little thing on that. So, well, Bob, we're going to take just a quick short break here for some community notes, and we'll be right back with more of Bob Hyldburg and Total Patriots.
Go Pats.
Welcome back to Radio Northampton for November of 2022. We're here with our guest, Bob Hyldburg, historian emeritus of the New England Patriots. And we're New England now, but how did the Patriots name come about? Who selected it?
Well, it was an interesting story. They were the last and final team of the American Football League. So there were 7 teams. They needed one more, and Billy Sullivan stood up and said, "All right, I think I can raise the money." And they had other teams before to play football, the Boston Redskins, the Boston Yanks, etc. So they said, well, let's have a contest. So Jack Grenold, who was their 3rd employee, he was hired to, run a contest. And he put things in the paper and said, submit some names. So Musketeers, Braves, Bulls, Pilgrims, Bean Eaters. There was all kind of names that were thrown out there. And it came down to Patriots and Minutemen. And then they said, all right, so let's narrow that down. And so they said, we want people to write an essay as to why it should be one or the other. And there's 2 essays. One that's actually in the Patriots Hall of Fame. There was a guy that wrote just a quick little thing about Paul Revere and Revolutionary War. And then there was this other woman that I met through LinkedIn that said that she wrote a story. She was a journalism major, and it came down to, with all the revolutionary theme of Boston and that history, Patriots was the name that they come up with, and then Phil Bissell actually, put together Pat Patriot, and they just took off from there. But Patriots seemed to make sense, and certainly when they won the Super Bowl to beat the Rams, and the 2001, the whole country was cheering for us. This was a very patriotic win there.
Yeah, and although there were some different changes when I went to the throwback game against the Lions last month, it was you can't touch those uniforms.
Yeah,
They
the
are
red
the
uniforms.
best in NFL history. Yeah, and I remember a long time ago, somebody wrote something I was kind of ticked off about it. It was like Phil Bissell, the guy Pat Patriot. He looks like some guy who just stumbled out of a bar in Southie or something like that. And I said, no, he's got a mean. That makes sense. He's the center.
Yep.
So I'm sure every center that's ever played for the Pats, has a little affinity to the old guy because he's
absolutely.
over the ball.
Yeah, John Morris was the star
John Morris,
center,
Holy Cross.
Pro Bowl, and now he's in the Patriots Hall of Fame. What an honor to get there. But, we've had a tremendous amount of just active people in the alumni. Pete Brock, for one of them, as being a center, and he played multiple positions. But the expression on his face actually changed a little bit as he got older, Pat Patriot. But in the first couple of years, if you saw some of the old programs, he was mean and nasty, and then later they kind of had with a smile and that type of thing. But everyone loved the Pat Patriot.
Yeah, that's my official sweatshirt. I mean, I'm an old Reebok guy, wearing old Reebok stuff.
Yep.
And you just can't beat it. So moving right along through these historic events and this whole history of amazing things and ups and downs and more downs than ups for a while.
Yes.
What do you see as your top best moments? What do you have in mind as...
Well, I had a chance to interview Gil Santos' son, Mark, and what it was like for him to see his dad, announce the Boston Patriots and see him lose most of the games. And, they won one playoff game in the 60s. They didn't win any in the 70s. They won 3 or 4 in the 80s. But that moment when, Vinatieri kicked that field goal with 4 seconds left to beat the Rams, and just see the relief of, oh my God, the Patriots are going to be world champions. That was incredible, 14-point underdogs, and just to feel that, because you had no way chance. You were like, oh, the greatest show on turf. They're going to score. Don't go to overtime. There's no way we're going to compete with this team. And
well, I didn't get to go to that game. However, every Sunday we had a ritual at the house. You had a certain seat. You parked in a certain spot because we're very Italian and superstitious. And I get over to the playoff game. My brother had the season tickets. And so he's up there in 206 when they got relocated to the new place.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. They were still in the old place.
Yeah, they were.
That's right. I'm thinking of something
Stadium.
else.
Yeah.
So they go down the game, and there's that wet snowy game. I get over to his house because we had two things we had to do. You had to have your seat.
Yeah.
And you had to have Tripoli pizza, a box of Tripoli beach pizza, basically, right? So my sister takes care of okay, we're good. We got the pizza. I get over to the house, and someone who hadn't been there all year long,
right,
had my parking space.
Uh-oh.
And I'm just pacing the cage. I just don't know what the hell to do. I get inside. This guy's sitting in my chair.
Uh-oh.
So I said, look, here's the deal. I got a space.
Yeah.
But you just cannot sit in that chair. I mean, this is too important now,
right.
Okay? And so we pulled that off, and I just collapsed in that chair when he hit that field goal. So
yeah, it was. I mean, then to win, 5 more since then is, and the way they've won or lost some of those games have been heartbreaking and thrilling as well, with the Malcolm Butler and Julian Edelman catch, and and just shutting down the Rams again to beat them for the 6th time.
Yeah.
We're just so grateful to have those 20 years as compared to the first 40 that were so heartbreaking.
It's for information like this, and the 3 Games to Glory DVD set, which my sister has every one of them. I said, we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
We'll just keep watching.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what happened to Nikhil Harry or
or
Ray Ventrone. This is it. We're here,
Right.
Well, that's pretty cool. How about the worst moments? in your
I mean,
estimation?
there's a couple. I mean, certainly the toughest one was when Darryl Stingley and Russ Francis was his roommate, and Russ shares a story. He says, Darryl, you don't have a contract, and we're playing in an exhibition game. We're playing in an exhibition game against the Raiders, who really have no rules. You know, they're just assassins. And Darryl Stingley says, listen, I'm an honorable guy. I'm playing football. They hired me to play football. We'll work out the contract later. And then he goes over the middle. The pass is a little high. He goes up for it, and he just gets hit and breaks his neck and is paralyzed for life.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
And that was devastating, and it took a long time. I mean, he came back in '79 in a wheelchair in a Monday night game, and the crowd gave him a 7-minute standing ovation, and he was an inspiration to people that had, disabilities, and he lived a fairly long life based on his injury, and it did a lot for people with disabilities in Chicago and stuff, and quite the story. But I'm glad to be alive. But that was tough for the whole team and all our fans, because he was just a sweet man.
Yeah,
and quite an
it
athlete.
seems like bad things follow the Raiders.
Yeah,
and of course they lucked out with Ben Dreith, didn't they?
Well, the thing about that game, the playoff game, so early in the year we had beaten the Raiders 48-17.
Yeah,
and the one story that I heard is that Ken Stabler and Fred Bolitnikoff missed the team bus leaving the hotel. So they get a cab, and they get stuck in traffic getting to the stadium, so they start walking through the parking lot, get out of the cab, walk into the parking lot, and they had a few beers with some of the fans before the game, because the year before the Patriots won 3 games. They were 3-11. So they're like, we're the best team in football. We're not going to lose to these guys. And, of course, the 76 team was one of the greatest teams that we ever had. We had everybody. Mike Haynes, I mean, you name it. Offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah.
And we go out there, and, Sam Cunningham runs out of bounds, a foot short. We go off sides. Russ Francis throws it. What is he throwing a pass for? He throws an interception. A couple mental errors like that. And then it comes down to 3rd and 18, and Ray Hamilton, deflects the ball, which means that's the ball's up there, and they call him roughing the passer, and 2 plays later, and even Mike Haynes, I talked to Mike Haynes, says, even if we had won that game, I got hurt in that game, and I probably wouldn't have been able to play later in the playoffs, but they still should have won it, because Pittsburgh was banged up, and
even exactly, and even in the out in fandom, out in the seats, we should have won that Super. That should have been the first.
Yeah.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda, sir.
1776, 1976. The
Yeah.
whole country would have been behind us.
Yeah.
That was pretty devastating to see that we had it and we lost it.
Yeah.
you know? And it took a long time until the Tuck rule to get that back against the Raiders.
Yeah. And I it was amazing thinking back as I was a kid, where your uncle had tickets, or you went here, you went there before my brother had season tickets. That you're at Fenway Park, you're at Harvard Stadium, I saw Joe Cap.
Yeah.
Obviously Mike Tolliver gets booed off the field like it's ancient Rome. Bring in Cap, and he was supposed to save the day, and because he was there, I got to see John Unitas. He was on the other side of the ball,
and that's why you went to the game. You went to the game to see the other team, not so much us. We didn't expect to win, so we saw Unitas and Tarkington and Bradshaw and John Brody and Roman Gabriel and Jick Buckus and all those kind of guys. You just wanted to see the other team, not us.
Well, I wanted to see Dan Pastorini because he was Italian. That was a playoff game that went south.
78. Yeah.
But I can remember we were talking about back. But just one thing that hit me was, or two things, was the first night at Shaper Stadium.
Yeah.
And the whole toilet thing. But no one knew the traffic, and we didn't get there until halftime.
Yeah.
And then somehow we got home at 4:30 in the morning, back to the beach. But the Chelsea Fire was an interesting one because we sat facing north in the end zone for $5. And there's a reserved bunch of little seats they were selling. And we can see this smoke, and just amazing amount of smoke coming from north from Boston.
Yeah, Chelsea's about probably 25 miles, 30 miles away,
Yeah. And then obviously we got on the radio on the way home, and it was half of Chelsea is burning.
Right.
And it was a phenomenal. But you got to see Joe Namath.
Yeah.
You know? So They're just amazing. It's just always an amazing story beyond the story that people out there are telling their kids, too.
Right.
It's just a ripple effect of historical
We had
precedence.
We
to
had
me.
a fog game against the Steelers with, you couldn't even see the field.
Yeah.
And then we lost our power in a playoff game one time against the Jaguars. And there were I interviewed some of the militia guys, and there was one time where they scored a touchdown and they shoot the gun, and then all the gunpowder goes up in the air, and Vinatieri, it got in his eyes as he was trying an extra point, and he missed it, and he blamed it on the guy shooting the guns. Just move over to the right a little bit, because the wind blew it right into my face,
Oh, God. Incidences, one I recall was, this was kind of cool, was as a fan, obviously, and now you the more you get involved, you knew people in the media and things like that, so that you're at a different level. But my daughter was going to school at the University of Missouri, and the Pats were playing the Rams. Bledsoe had a steel rod in his throwing finger or something like that.
They broke his finger.
So we get the best seats in the house because it turns out I'm calling in June for the tickets.
Right.
And the guy goes, "What are you calling here for June tickets?" He says, "I'm actually from Foxborough. Where do you want to sit?"
Yeah.
He's working out there. So we got great seats coming out, and she's all jacked up and stuff like that. But there was this one superstition that my family had when we were working with Merrimack College hockey team and doing the video production stuff. Like that, is that prior to a game, if Jackie Parker was coming in or any of the coaches, Lenny said, you knew them all, but you couldn't say hi before a home game. So my daughter, it's all in there now, inculcated as to how we go to a game. So we go to the Rams game, and there's nobody there at, we're thinking Foxborough Standard Time here.
Right.
10 a.m., 9 a.m. There's not a soul around.
Right.
All there is a little Catholic church and a priest outside charging $5 to park, and they cancel mass that day because the stadium's sitting right next to it.
Sure.
Long story short, with in mind the visiting coaches, whatever. So we go to the will call window, get our tickets, and we head to the door, and someone's getting out of a car, heads up to the door. We can't really see who it is. And all of a sudden he opens the door and says, hey, New England fans, that's kind of cool. You came all that way. Let me get the door for you. It was Dick Vermeil.
Oh.
So my daughter looks at me, and I said, we're sunk.
Yeah.
Okay, visiting the coach.
He's in the Hall of Fame now.
And now he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But he was a very nice guy.
He is. Yeah.
So don't carry the message for everyone at home. Don't carry your superstitions that far. So. All right, we're going to take another short break for some community notes and things,
Excellent.
Robert, and we will be back after this on Radio Northampton. Welcome back to Radio Northampton. I'm John Savastano with, I'm going to say for the third time, because here's the hat trick, historian emeritus of the New England Patriots, Bob Hyldburg. Bob, easy enough, we've talked about various situations and historical things, but what are your best moments?
I think the best moment that I have is the one that relates to my family. My wife is not into football at all. She doesn't really understand first down, second down, third down, and all that stuff. But when she saw that Malcolm Butler play, and she saw that the Patriots practiced that, and that he ran on the field even though his helmet really wasn't fully fastened, and he made the interception, and she wanted to watch that over and over and over. And it was the first time that I finally found connected with her about football. For him to make that play and to beat Seattle, that's a special moment for me personally. But I'm sure to change the game in one play. I mean, and that's what it comes down to sometimes. Yeah. One or two plays can change the moment.
Yep.
And the other one, I think, was the Vinatieri kick in the snow, that tuck rule game. They have a reenactment of that at the Patriots Hall of Fame. Try to kick the football, through a hoop for kids and stuff like that. Yeah. But to kick a 45-yard field goal in 4 inches of snow, and I actually talked to I have a podcast that we talked to the holder And he says, Gruden called a timeout. He says, why do you call a timeout? That gives us time to move the snow off and get good footing. And he says, if he didn't call a timeout, we probably would have been kicking on snow. But Adam was able to plant his foot on the grass rather than on the snow to kick it. And the other part of that, if you notice, the Raiders didn't really even try to block the field goal. I mean, it just made it a couple inches over guys because it had to be low and long. And even the announcers, Gil and Gino, on the radio, they said they couldn't tell where the ball was until the arms went up by the referees because it was so snowy.
Yeah, we almost had it made at home watching it on TV as opposed to being there. What is it about snow and clearing snow?
Yeah.
History repeats itself.
So the other
Mark
one is,
Anderson.
So in December 12, 1982, we're playing the Miami Dolphins, and Don Shula, the head coach, and it had rained, and then it had frozen, and then it had snowed. So Friday and Saturday we had rain and sleet and snow, and then during the game it's snowing. So you're actually playing the game on snow, which is on top of ice. So everyone is slipping and sliding. We had a running attack, Mark Van Egan and Mosi Tatupu, a lovely name, Tatupu. They just ran the ball, but no one could kick a field goal. John Smith tried earlier in the game, right on his rear end, Yeah. So it comes to the fourth quarter, and Steve Grogan notices that we get this guy, Mark Henderson, who was on work parole from Norfolk Prison, about 10 miles away. He was in charge of taking the snow brush or snow plow, but it was more of a brush to go every 10-yard line so you could see it on TV. So he'd do the 10-yard line, the 20-yard line, the 30-yard line.
God-awful hard turf.
Just kind of mesh it all up and then push it out of the way. So Grogan says, hey, instead of doing the 30, how about when you get halfway across the field and just maybe make a little loop there to get to the 37-yard line where Smitty's going to put his footing down. And about halfway through, going across the field, he makes this big turn, and Shula's going crazy, and he makes this nice little spot there, and 10 seconds later, Smitty's up there and he kicks it, and they win the game 3-0.
3-0. Wow.
So the other part of that is now Mark Henderson is a hero, right? Because he's the guy. And the Patriots said, don't talk to any media and just kind of put the snow brush away. And as he's driving the snow brush off the field, it stalls out. So now all the media is surrounding him to ask him all these questions after the game.
Oh, boy.
And he's supposed to be back in prison at 6 o'clock. And this is 5:30 now. And he realizes there's no way he's going to get back with the traffic and putting the thing away. So Ron Meyer, the head coach of the Patriots, actually had to call the prison and say, hey, this is the coach of the Patriots. And Mark Henderson's going to be late reporting back to prison. And they're like, why? And they told him why. He's a hero. He made some maneuvers on his snowplow so we can kick a field goal. So by the time he got back to the prison, he was a hero. Everyone's chapping for him. And, like a month later, he got out of the prison, but he was famous, not only in the prison, but across all of football, to being the guy that did the snow brush to allow us to win that game. And Shula went nuts, and he was mad about that for a long time.
They should have presented Shula with the golden snowblower.
And that snow brush is in the ceiling at the Patriots Hall of Fame.
Yes,
you
it
can
is.
Go and check it out. Pretty beat up old little thing.
That is amazing. Yep. That is amazing. Well, I know probably the penultimate moment for you, as we were talking earlier during the break, was the Atlanta game.
Yeah.
And it's almost one of the crowning achievements of a 20 year in there, but the success level just beyond comprehension.
Exactly.
And,
you went to a game. We talked about it earlier. You went to a game just to see the other team. You didn't really go to see Atlanta, but you were used to, if the Patriots scored a touchdown, you're looking for a flag. Oh, it's coming back. It's coming back. So we're losing 28-3. Everyone's like, here we go again. We had a chance, and we lost to the Giants. Is we're going to lose 28? We're going to get killed by Atlanta? Really?
Yeah.
And then, the guy misses a block. Hightower, gets the strip sack. We recover it. We start, and then Gostkowski misses an extra point, and we're like, oh, it's coming back, but we're not coming back. I just he missed an extra point. He was Mr. Consistent. And so your emotions are all over the field, and it's 28-9, and then you see Mohamed Sanu on Atlanta. And he's like, hey, they got Brady on the other side. And you could see the momentum of Atlanta, like they're now worried. They're playing not to win, but to lose. They're playing defensive.
Arthur Blank with a blank stare.
Exactly right. And then you got the owner on the other side of the field. And then you got Julian Edelman, laser focus. Every play counts, every snap counts. And it happened. There was about 20 different things that had to happen for the Patriots to win. Time management, running out of bounds, catching, throwing, all these different things that Atlanta, if they had done one or two things, holding, all these things happened. And, of course, the Julian Edelman catch, I caught it.
Yeah.
And then James White scoring. We didn't lead at all until, we tied it up on the last play of the game.
Yeah. And, I mean, obviously a new level of pressure Matt Ryan's never seen.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So it's all... it all came rumbling back. I just like, and Arthur Blank's wife looking up at him and saying, "Oh boy, this isn't looking really good." But
there's so many lessons in life that you never give up and laser focused and one play at a time and just do your job and all those lessons of play to the clock and understand everything you got to do and the discipline and. One of the things that I heard is that the Patriots were running uphill and running sprints the day before or 2 days before. And they're like, we're professional athletes. And Belichick's like, this could come down to the last 15 seconds. Atlanta's going to get tired. It's a long game. There's heat. There's all this, atmosphere of being in there. And it could make one play. It could make one little thing. So let's run a couple more laps, And he was pushing them. And they looked back and said, man, I don't think Atlanta was doing that.
Why are we practicing in the snow? Why are we outdoors when everybody else is inside?
Right.
Or I believe it was that game where the trapezoidal roof sort of articulated open.
Right. Yeah.
And Belichick was concerned with the wind direction and even at the kickoff. And I miss a trick.
All those little things make a difference. And that's part of life, too.
That's why God brought us Ernie Adams.
That's
He's not there anymore. Well, Bob, it's been a pleasure having with you.
Awesome.
Finally, it took a little bit of time, but we finally got it done. And you're a wealth of knowledge, and that knowledge comes out in these two books, as you can see right here, Relive Patriots History and the Definitive Encyclopedia Britannica of Football here with the Patriots, Total Patriots. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to much more success and more stats in the future.
Absolutely. And check out my podcast.
Thank you for that. Yes.
On wherever you get podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google, whatever.
Yeah.
So Untold Patriot Stories. So we bring back a lot of the players. We had Upton Bell on talking about different things when he was general manager, some media people. Untold Patriot Stories. We do it once a week. We have a Facebook group, same thing, Untold Patriot Stories. Join there, and we bring a lot of stories and pictures and fun things like this on a weekly basis.
The website, I'm for sure I'm a member of that, and just love the Facebook info.
Yeah, so we have a lot of blast, and we talk about games from the 60s, 70s, 80s, or even up until last week. So there's a lot of activity, and I try to bring it back. The Relive Patriots History. If you went to a game, like you said, or if you saw a game, or you experienced something with someone in your family that's near and dear to you, I want to bring that stuff back and bring some joy to you.
Anyway, I could talk for hours with the funny little things that happen along the way.
Absolutely.
But so again, thanks, Bob, for all the information, and it's been a pleasure working with you. And we'll see you next time on Radio Northampton.
Go Pats.